Don't open that box, sir. Please, don't touch it. Mr. Hale, listen to me. There's something bad inside. Marcus Hale stood at the head of a long marble table in the grand ballroom of the Hale estate, a polished silver letter opener in one hand and a velvet ribbon between his fingers. On the table before him was a tall white gift box wrapped in deep green silk, the centerpiece of his 50th birthday party. It was the special present his closest business partner had personally placed there an hour before, insisting Marcus open it in front of all the guests. For one long second, Marcus did not move. Across the room, near the side hallway that led to the kitchens, Diane Foster, the head of household staff, froze with a tray still balanced in her hands. "Maya," Diane said, hurrying toward her daughter. Her voice was low, frightened, and full of apology before she even reached the front of the room. "Baby, come here. Right now. Come to Mama, please." But Maya did not move. "She put something inside it," Maya said. "I saw her do it." Across the ballroom, Caroline Whitfield rose slowly from the chair beside Marcus. She wore an emerald gown, soft and elegant, with diamond earrings catching the light of the chandeliers. Until that moment, she had looked like a woman thoroughly enjoying her best friend's milestone birthday, the woman everyone called Marcus's right hand, the partner who had helped grow Hale Industries into the empire it was today. Now her smile tightened at the edges, just slightly, the way silk pulls when it begins to tear. "Excuse me," Caroline said. Maya pointed at the green silk box. "You went into the gift room. You took something out of your bag. You put it inside that box before you tied the ribbon back. I saw you. I was behind the big plant." A murmur passed through the guests like wind moving through grass. It was meant to be a quiet, elegant birthday celebration. Only 90 guests, all carefully chosen. Family, lifelong friends, business partners. No press, no outsiders. Just trust and a 50th birthday earned through decades of hard work. Caroline placed one hand against her chest as though the accusation itself had struck her. "That is a horrible thing to say," she said, her voice still soft but no longer warm. "Maya, sweetheart, I don't know what you think you saw, but you cannot run into a private celebration in front of all these people and accuse me of trying to hurt Marcus." Diane reached Maya and put both hands on her shoulders. "Mr. Hale, Ms. Whitfield, I am so sorry," Diane said, her voice trembling. "She must have misunderstood something. She was supposed to be in the staff room watching a movie." "I didn't misunderstand," Maya said. Her voice shook, but she did not back down. "I saw her. I saw the whole thing." Caroline gave a short, disbelieving laugh. "She saw the whole thing," she repeated, looking around at the guests. "A 9-year-old girl hiding behind a plant now knows more than the adults preparing a birthday party." "I wasn't hiding to be bad," Maya said. "I was just looking at the presents because they were pretty. Then I saw you come in. You looked at the door first. Then you took the lid off Mr. Hale's box. Then you put something inside it and tied it back." A man near the middle of the table leaned toward his wife and muttered, "She probably wants attention." Another guest, an older woman in pearls, shook her head sadly. "Children get jealous at events like this. Her mother works here. She must want to be part of the celebration. Maybe she saw a movie about something like this," someone else whispered. "She's making up a story." Diane heard it. Her shoulders stiffened, but she kept her eyes down. Maya heard it too. Her small face hardened with the stubborn dignity of a child who knew she was being doubted but had not yet learned to surrender. "I don't want attention," she said. "I'm telling the truth." Marcus set the letter opener down slowly. "Maya," he said carefully, "look at me." She did. "Are you sure you didn't see one of the staff arranging the gift? Maybe adjusting the bow, the way they do for photographs?" "No, sir. It came from Miss Caroline's purse. The little black one with the gold flower on it. She has it on her chair right now." Every eye in the room turned toward the chair beside Marcus. The small black clutch sat there exactly as Maya had described. Caroline followed Marcus's gaze toward the chair and then quickly looked back at him with a calm, almost amused expression. "Yes, Marcus, that's my clutch. I've had it with me all evening. the same way every woman at this table has had her bag. Are we now searching purses based on the imagination of a child? A few uncomfortable laughs rippled through the nearest guests, the kind of laughs people give when they want a moment to end. Maya did not laugh. Diane did not laugh. And in the back of the room, near the service doorway, Diane could feel the older waitstaff watching her with the particular sympathy reserved for someone whose child had just embarrassed them in front of the wrong people. Marcus glanced around the table. 89 other gifts sat stacked on the long display tables along the side wall. Cards, wine, watches, custom cufflinks, framed photographs, a vintage record still in its sleeve. Nothing about any of them seemed unusual, and not one other person in the entire ballroom looked afraid. Maya, Marcus said more gently now, everyone else's gifts look fine. Nothing is wrong with the table. Are you certain it was that box? Yes, sir. The big green one with the white satin inside the bow. Miss Diane said it was your special one because Miss Caroline brought it herself and made everyone put it in the middle. At the service doorway, Diane went very still. Maya was right. Caroline had insisted on placing the green silk box in the centerpiece position. She had even adjusted the angle twice so the ribbon faced Marcus's seat. Caroline saw Diane's expression and spoke quickly. Yes, I positioned it. Because I wanted Marcus to see it first. That is what a friend does when she has spent 6 months finding the perfect gift for a man who already owns everything. She makes sure he opens it first. Is that now a crime? She turned her gaze back to Maya. The softness disappeared, but this, sweetheart, this is wrong. It is hurtful. I am standing here as Marcus's oldest friend in front of the people who love him, and you are accusing me of putting something dangerous in his birthday gift. Do you understand what you are saying? Maya's fingers tightened around the small stuffed rabbit she had been holding since the staff hallway. I understand, she said. I'm trying to keep him safe. Caroline's eyes narrowed. Enough. Diane lowered her voice. Maya, baby, please come with me. We'll talk in the back. But Maya suddenly moved. Before Diane could stop her, before Marcus understood what she was about to do, Maya darted forward, grabbed the green silk box with both hands, and pulled it toward the edge of the table away from him. Gasps rose around the table. Maya, Diane cried. Put that down, Caroline snapped, her voice losing its warmth completely. Maya held the box against her chest as carefully as she could, both arms wrapped around it. He can't open this. Please. Please don't let him. Marcus pushed back his chair. Maya, he said, now firm, hand me the box. No, sir. Maya, it's a gift. It will not hurt me. Marcus stepped toward her and reached out. Maya turned her small body away, but he caught the edge of the box before it slipped. For one tense moment, their hands were on the same green silk lid. Maya's eyes filled with tears, but she did not let go. Let go, he said, please. Let go of the box, Maya. She hesitated. Marcus used that moment to firmly draw the box from her arms, not violently, but with the kind of decisive strength a man uses when he believes he is protecting a child from her own confusion. The box returned to the table with a soft thud against the polished marble. Maya stood frozen, her arms now empty. The stuffed rabbit lay forgotten on the floor at her feet. Caroline pressed a hand over her mouth as though she were the one being harmed. My God, she said softly, she tried to take your birthday gift out of your hands, Marcus. In front of everyone. This is not a misunderstanding anymore. This is something serious. Eleanor Hale, Marcus's older sister, watched her brother closely. She had not spoken yet. At 64, she had lived long enough to distrust both panic and performance. Her eyes moved from Maya's stiff little posture to Caroline's trembling hand, then to the green silk box at the center of the table. Marcus looked at the guests. Their faces were tense, expectant, embarrassed for him. He could feel the evening slipping. He could feel Caroline beside him, wounded and impatient. Most of all, he wanted to believe that the woman who had stood beside him at every product launch for 20 years had not just walked into his gift room and put something dangerous inside his birthday box. So he picked up the letter opener. "Enough," Marcus said, though not unkindly. "The box is fine. It is a birthday present from one of the closest friends I have ever had." "Marcus," Elinor said quietly. He looked at her. "It's all right." Caroline touched his arm. "You don't have to prove anything. We can simply set it aside. We can open it tomorrow. I don't want you to feel pressured." But the way she said it made it sound as though she very much needed him to open it right now, in front of everyone, before the moment passed. Marcus glanced at Maya. The child stood with her shoulders rigid, her small hands now clenched at her sides. She wasn't crying. She wasn't begging anymore. She was simply watching him with the heartbreaking patience of someone who had said everything she knew how to say, and could only wait to see if it mattered. "Just the lid," Marcus said. "Then we can stop frightening each other." He slid the letter opener under the satin ribbon and gave a gentle pull. The bow loosened. He set the opener down and lifted the lid carefully with both hands. A few seconds passed, then 10, then 20. Inside, on a bed of folded white tissue paper, sat a beautiful antique chess set. Hand-carved ivory pieces, a deep walnut board, a small handwritten card tucked beside the king. A nervous laugh moved through the room. Someone near the back clapped, and several others joined in, relieved that the strange moment had passed. Caroline closed her eyes dramatically and leaned one hand against the back of Marcus's chair. "Oh, thank God," she whispered, loudly enough for the guests at the head of the table to hear. "Marcus, I was terrified." She turned slightly, pressing her fingertips to her lips. "I just want this night to be beautiful for you." She looked pale now, but not the way Marcus did a minute later. Hers was a public kind of relief, arranged for the room to witness. Marcus reached down and picked up the small card. As his fingers slipped beneath the chess board to lift it slightly, looking for the signature on the underside the way collectors sometimes do, a sharp, hot sting shot through the pad of his thumb. He pulled his hand back quickly. A bead of blood welled up against his skin. "Ouch," he said softly, almost embarrassed by the small sound. He looked at his thumb. There was a tiny puncture, no bigger than a pinprick, but it was already purling red. "Marcus," Caroline said, "it's nothing. There must be a pin somewhere under the lining. They sometimes use them to hold the velvet in place." He pressed his thumb against a napkin. Maya was already moving. "Mama, get Mr. Hail a doctor. Right now." Diane stepped forward. "Maya, baby." "Mama, please." Elinor stood, her chair sliding back a few inches. There was something in her sister's instinct that had been alive since the moment Caroline placed that box on the center of the table. "Marcus, let me see your hand." He held it out, half amused, half indulgent. "It's a pinprick." She looked at it carefully. Then she looked at the chess set. Then she looked at Caroline. "Did you wrap this yourself?" "Of course I did. I wouldn't trust a gift like this to a shop." "And the linings?" "It came that way. From the dealer." "Elinor, what are you implying?" Elinor did not answer. Her eyes stayed on Marcus's thumb. The skin around the small wound was beginning to redden in a way that pin marks did not usually redden, and a faint heat was rising up his hand. "Marcus," she said, "sit down." "I'm fine." The first wave hit a moment later. A strange tightness moved up his forearm. His vision shimmered at the edges, as though someone had quickly waved a hand in front of a candle. He shifted in his chair and pressed his other hand lightly against the table. Heat rose up the back of his neck. The scent of roses, perfume, candle wax, and chilled champagne pressed against him all at once. He swallowed. His mouth had gone dry. "Marcus," Elinor said sharply now. "I'm fine," he answered automatically. But he was not. A wave of nausea rolled through him, sudden and unmistakable. He tried to push back his chair, but the motion made the room tilt. His face lost color. One hand gripped the edge of the table. Caroline rushed toward him with a cry so loud several guests flinched. "Marcus." "Oh my God, Marcus, what is happening?" She reached for his shoulder. Elinor stepped between them so quickly that Caroline nearly stumbled. "Don't touch him," Elinor said. Her voice was glass. "Elinor, he is my best friend. Move away from my brother." A man rose quickly from a chair 3 seats down. "Doctor." Aaron Pierce had been Marcus's personal physician for 15 years, and he had not earned that position by hesitating. Everyone stepped back. "Give him air." He was already at Marcus's side, 2 fingers pressed to his wrist, the other hand checking his pupils. "Marcus, look at me. Look right here. Tell me what you feel." "My hand," Marcus managed, "burning. Up the arm." "What did he touch?" Aaron asked sharply, looking around. "There was a pin," Elinor said, "under the lining of the chess board." He pricked his thumb. "Nobody touches that box," Aaron said. The command snapped through the room like a whip. "Nobody touches that lid, nobody touches that lining, nobody touches the card or the pieces. The box stays exactly where it is." Caroline covered her face with both hands. "This is a nightmare." This was supposed to be the happiest night of his life. She was crying now, real tears or convincing ones. The difference no longer mattered to anyone in the family. "I bought him that set. I researched it for months. Oh God, what if the dealer—" "Caroline," Elinor said, "step away." "Now." Caroline lowered her hands slowly. "Elinor, I'm scared too." "Step away." Caroline stepped back. Maya stood beside her mother now, very still, watching the adults finally move with the urgency she had tried to give them 10 minutes earlier. She did not look pleased. She did not look proud. She looked like a child who had been carrying something far too heavy and was finally allowed to set part of it down. Aaron was already on his phone. An ambulance was called. Marcus's private security driver also pulled the car around in case they could move faster. 2 of the security teams stationed at the perimeter took up positions on either side of the head of the table, not letting anyone, family or guest, approach the chess box. "Aaron, what is this?" Marcus asked through gritted teeth. The nausea had become a roar in his stomach. His thumb felt as though it had been dipped in boiling water, and his fingers were beginning to feel strange and distant. "I don't know yet, but you only made contact with the pin. We caught it early." "That matters." Aaron turned to Elinor. "We move him now." Stretcher in the side hall. Pulse is elevated but stable. Whatever it is, the dose was small, and it entered through a tiny wound. "That is the best version of this." "And the worst?" Elinor asked quietly. Aaron did not answer her, which was its own answer. As 2 paramedics rolled a stretcher through the ballroom doors, conversation among the guests had collapsed into stunned silence. A Foundation board member near the wall whispered to his wife, "The girl." The little girl knew. His wife only nodded, pale. Marcus was helped from his chair. As Aaron and the security men guided him toward the side hall, he turned his head, searching the room. He found Maya. Their eyes met. He said nothing. He was too sick to speak, but the look on his face had changed. It was no longer indulgent. It was no longer apologetic. It was something else entirely. It was the look of a man who had just learned that a child had seen what he had refused to see. The green silk box remained on the table beneath the chandelier. The ivory chess pieces gleamed in the candlelight, as though nothing had happened to them at all. By the time Marcus Hale reached the hospital, the birthday celebration had become something no amount of money could quietly cover up. The ambulance rolled through the private emergency entrance, its lights painting the glass doors red. Aaron stayed beside Marcus, one hand braced near the stretcher, giving short instructions to the trauma team as they moved. Single puncture wound, right thumb, contact with unknown substance via concealed pin in a wrapped gift. Symptoms started within 90 seconds. Burning, nausea, dizziness. Patient is stable, conscious, talking. He is also stubborn, so do not let him try to walk. Marcus, lying flat now, tried to lift his head. "I can hear you." Elinor stepped in beside the stretcher before anyone else could answer. You can hear, you cannot speak, you cannot argue, you cannot stand. Those are the new rules until I say otherwise. Under any other circumstance, Marcus might have smiled. But another wave of strange heat moved through his arm, and he closed his eyes against the bright hospital lights. Behind them came the rest of the Hale family in a tense, frightened cluster. Marcus's younger brother, Daniel, hurried in still in his evening jacket. Marcus's adult son, Theo, who had flown in that morning from Boston, walked beside his uncle with his jaw clenched and his coat thrown over one arm. Then came Diane and Maya. Diane held Maya's hand tightly as they entered the hospital lobby. Maya stood close to her mother's side, the small stuffed rabbit tucked under her arm. She had not wanted to come. She had said so twice in the car. "Mama, they don't want us there. The family should be alone." But Alina Hale had heard her in the back of the ambulance bay and had turned, her face pale but her voice steady. "Your daughter tried to save my brother tonight. That makes you family enough to come." Diane had not known what to say after that. Now, in the hospital waiting area, the separation between worlds was painfully clear. The Hales were directed toward a private family lounge with leather chairs, fresh coffee, bottled water, and a nurse assigned only to them. Diane paused at the doorway, unsure if she was allowed to enter. Alina noticed, "Mrs. Foster," she said, softer now, "please come in." Diane hesitated. "Ma'am, we can wait outside." "No. You and Maya stay where I can see you." Maya climbed into a chair near the corner, her feet not touching the floor. Theo Hale sat across from her, still holding his phone in one hand. He studied Maya for a moment, then leaned forward slowly. "You're Maya, right?" Maya nodded. "I'm Theo. Marcus's son." His voice trembled slightly despite his attempt to sound composed. "You were the one who tried to stop him from opening the box." "Yes, sir." Theo swallowed. "What did you see?" Diane stiffened. "Mr. Hale, she's already had a hard night." "I know," Theo said quickly. "I'm sorry. I'm not pushing her. I just want to understand." Maya looked down at her rabbit. "I saw Miss Caroline in the gift room. She had a little glass tube in her hand. She unscrewed the box at the bottom slides, did you know? And she stuck the tube under the cloth. Then she screwed it back together." The room was quiet. Daniel stood near the window with his arms folded. "Did anyone call the police?" Alina answered without looking away from the hallway. "Marcus's chief of security, Howard Levine, is already at the estate. Aaron ordered the box untouched. The lining, the pieces, the card, the ribbon, all preserved. Howard is copying the gift room cameras." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Good. Because if this is what it looks like, this is not a family matter anymore." Diane heard the words and felt Maya's hand tighten around hers. Inside the exam room, nurses worked quickly. Marcus was connected to a monitor. Blood was drawn for tox screening. An IV was started, and a slow drip of activated charcoal was prepared in case it could absorb anything that had reached his bloodstream. Aaron watched every reading with the focused calm of a man who had treated Marcus for 15 years and had never seen him in this kind of bed. After some time, Marcus's breathing steadied. The strange heat in his arm slowly faded into a dull, exhausted ache. The redness around the puncture wound did not spread further, which Aaron quietly considered the most encouraging sign of the night. Aaron leaned over him. "You're stable." Marcus opened his eyes. That sounded like the polite version of a bad sentence. "It is. But you are very lucky." "How lucky?" Aaron paused. "If that pin had pricked a vein instead of the pad of your thumb, or if you had pressed harder or held longer, we might be having a different conversation in intensive care. As it is, the dose that entered your bloodstream was small. Your body will process it. You will feel terrible tomorrow. You will feel mortal for a week. But you will be here for both of those." Marcus turned his head toward the ceiling. Maya's voice came back to him. "Don't open it." He saw her small arms wrapped around the green silk box. He saw himself taking it from her. That memory struck harder than the ache in his arm. A nurse stepped in. "Your family is waiting." Your sister is threatening to reorganize the entire hospital if she does not see you soon. Aaron sighed. That tracks. A few minutes later, Marcus was moved to a private room. The lights were dimmer there. The windows looked out over the city, where traffic moved in thin streams of red and white. Marcus lay propped against the pillows, an IV line taped to his hand, his evening jacket gone, his shirt collar open. Eleanor entered first. For a moment, she was not the iron-willed matriarch of the Hale family. She was simply an older sister looking at her brother in a hospital bed. "You scared me," she said. "I'm sorry. I'm not interested in apologies yet." Her mouth tightened, almost a smile, then faded. She sat beside him and touched his hand carefully, avoiding the bandaged thumb. "Why did you open it, Marcus?" He looked away, because I wanted to believe Maya was wrong. Eleanor did not answer immediately. Then she said, "Wanting a child to be mistaken is not the same as proving she is." "I know. Do you?" He closed his eyes. I took the box back from her, Elle. I held it in my own hands and pulled it away from a 9-year-old girl who was trying to stop me. And I cut the ribbon while she watched. His sister's face softened. "Yes, you did. And now you do something different. Starting tonight." The door opened again, and Daniel stepped in with Theo. They both looked relieved, though Daniel hid it behind a hard expression. "Still with us?" Daniel asked. "Unfortunately for my enemies," Marcus said weakly. Theo came to the other side of the bed. "Dad, you look awful." "Good to see you too." "I'm touched." The small exchange eased the room for half a breath. Then reality returned. Daniel lowered his voice. Aaron told Howard the substance on the pin was not standard. He doesn't want to guess on record yet, but the early reading says it was something synthetic. "Designed." Marcus looked at him. "Designed for what?" "To enter through a small wound and act quickly without leaving an obvious cause of death if a doctor weren't already next to you." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Marcus." If Aaron had been seated at the other end of the table, or out in the lobby taking a call, the way he sometimes does, he would have reached you 90 seconds later. Aaron is the only reason this isn't going a different way. Aaron, the only reason. And Maya. A knock sounded at the door. Diane stood outside with Maya beside her. Diane looked as though she wanted to disappear into the wall. "I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Hale." "Come in," Eleanor said. Diane entered slowly. Maya stayed close to her mother, rabbit tucked under one arm. Her eyes went straight to Marcus. He looked back at her for a long moment. The room seemed to understand that something important was passing between them. Marcus spoke first. "Maya." "Yes, sir. I should have listened to you." Maya did not look proud. She did not look pleased. She looked like a child who had been doubted by every adult in a beautiful ballroom, and had still kept her hands wrapped around the truth. "I tried to stop you," she said. "I know. You took the box back." "Yes," Marcus said quietly, "I did." Theo looked away, blinking fast. Diane pressed her lips together. Marcus continued, "That was my mistake. Not yours. The grown-ups in that room failed you tonight. I failed you tonight." Maya thought about that the way she thought about everything, carefully, fairly. "Are you going to be okay?" "Doctor, Pierce says I will." She nodded once, serious and small. "Good." The door opened before anyone could say more. Caroline Whitfield entered with a tissue in one hand and tears shining on her face. "Marcus." Everyone turned. Caroline had changed nothing about her appearance except the expression. Her emerald gown was still perfect. Her diamond earrings still caught the light. Now she looked fragile, devastated, almost ceremonial in her grief. She rushed toward the bed. "Oh, thank God. They wouldn't tell me anything. I thought I had lost you. I have known you since you were a college kid, sleeping on a dorm couch. I thought." Eleanor stood. Caroline stopped just short of the bed, as if noticing the coldness of the room for the first time. "Why is everyone looking at me like that?" she asked, pressing the tissue to her mouth. Marcus, please. Say something. Marcus studied her. This was the woman who had stood beside him at his first board meeting 20 years ago. The woman who had cried at his wife's funeral. The woman who had helped plan tonight, who had insisted on the green silk box at the center of the table, who had watched him pull it away from a small, frightened child. Now she looked like the victim of the evening. I'm alive, Marcus said. Caroline gave a wounded little laugh through her tears. That's all you have to say to me. What would you like me to say? That you know I would never hurt you. That this is some terrible mistake by the dealer. That a pin was missed in the manufacturing of an antique board. That an awful child has confused you. Maya did not flinch. Diane felt Maya shift beside her, but the girl did not step back. She looked at Caroline the way she had looked at the gift room hours earlier. Quietly, steadily, without blinking. Eleanor's voice was sharp. Careful, Caroline. Caroline looked at her. Eleanor, I am the one being accused of trying to murder a man I have loved like a brother for 30 years. Am I not allowed to be hurt? You are allowed to be hurt, Daniel said from near the wall. You are not allowed to intimidate a witness. Caroline stared at him. A witness. She is a 9-year-old girl. Maya lifted her chin. I saw you. Caroline's tears paused, only for a second, but it was a second, and every adult in the room saw it. Then she covered her face again. This is cruel. I checked the box because I wanted everything perfect. I touched it, yes, of course I touched it. I wrapped it. I placed it. But not the way she says. Not the way you are all imagining. Marcus, you know me. Marcus did not answer. Caroline moved closer to the bed, her voice softening into something intimate, the voice she had used at every dinner, every fundraiser, every quiet moment after a hard board meeting. Marcus, look at me. We were supposed to toast your 50th birthday tonight. We were supposed to be laughing right now. Please don't let fear destroy 30 years. Marcus looked at his sister, then at Diane, then at Maya. Finally, he turned back to Caroline. Aaron sealed the pin. Caroline blinked, of course. That's wise. The chess set is being tested. The lining, the velvet, the card, the ribbon. I would expect nothing less. The gift room cameras are being pulled. That was when something changed. Not much. Not enough for everyone to see. But Marcus saw it. Eleanor saw it too. A slight tightening around Caroline's mouth. A small delay before the next breath. Then she recovered. Good, Caroline said. Then the cameras will prove I did nothing wrong. Maybe they will, Marcus said. The room held its breath. Caroline's tears returned, but now they seemed to arrive with effort. I cannot do this, she whispered. I came here because I love you, and I am being treated like a criminal in your hospital room while a child stares at me like I'm a monster. No one called you that, Daniel said. You didn't have to. She turned toward the door, then stopped and looked back at Marcus, dignified and beautiful under the hospital lights. When you are ready to remember who has stood beside you for half your life, call me. She left before anyone could answer. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then Maya said very quietly, she looked scared when you said cameras. Marcus looked at her. Diane touched Maya's shoulder. Baby. No, Marcus said, let her speak. Maya met his eyes. She didn't look scared when you were sick. She looked scared when you said cameras. Eleanor slowly sat back down. Aaron returned just then, holding a tablet. He looked around the room, sensing the shift. Did I miss something? Marcus's gaze stayed on the door Caroline had closed behind her. No, he said, I think we are just beginning. That night, as the hospital settled into its quieter hours, and the machines beside Marcus's bed kept steady rhythm, the Hale family remained close. Diane and Maya were given a small room nearby to rest, though Diane sat awake for a long time, one hand on her daughter's back, staring at the wall. Marcus did not sleep much either. The pin had brought him to the hospital. Maya's warning had followed him there. But Caroline's face, when he mentioned cameras stayed with him most of all. By dawn, he knew three things with a clarity that made the bandaged thumb on his hand throb harder. Someone had hidden a contaminated pin inside his birthday gift. A child had watched it happen, and the woman he had trusted for 30 years was far more afraid of the cameras than she had ever been of losing him. Howard Levine arrived at the hospital a little after 7 in the morning with a leather portfolio in one hand and the look of a man who had not slept because the truth had kept him company all night. He was tall, gray-haired, and built like a retired wrestler who had decided to wear suits anyway. He had been Marcus's chief of security for 11 years and had personally vetted Caroline Whitfield for every level of access she now held. Marcus saw the look on his face and understood that part of Howard's sleepless night had been spent reviewing his own decisions. "Show me," Marcus said before Howard had even closed the door. Howard placed the portfolio on the rolling table and opened it. Several printed stills lay inside, arranged in sequence. "You need to understand something before you see these," Howard said quietly. "The footage is clear. It is not flattering to Ms. Whitfield." Marcus held out his hand. "Howard, she planted a poisoned pin in my birthday gift." "I am past flattering." Howard slid the first photograph across the table. Caroline entered the gift room alone at 7:14 p.m., her clutch tucked under one arm, her green silk box held carefully in both hands. Posture relaxed. Smile gone. The face of a woman alone, in a room she did not know was being watched. The second photograph changed everything. Caroline had set the box on the side table. The base of the box was tilted, the false bottom slid partway out. In her right hand, she held a small glass vial with a fine cap. In her left, a pair of forceps gripped a slender silver pin. The motion was the slow, precise motion of a woman who had practiced this, possibly many times. The third photograph showed the pin being threaded into the underside of the velvet lining. The fourth showed her dipping the very tip of the pin into the vial, just once. The fifth showed her sliding the false bottom back into place, repositioning the chess pieces and brushing the green silk with the palm of her hand. The sixth photograph showed Maya, half hidden behind the tall potted palm by the door. The child's small face turned toward Caroline, her stuffed rabbit pressed against her chest. Marcus stopped breathing for a moment. She was right there. "Yes," Howard said, "exactly where she said she was." The next image showed an unfamiliar man at the side service door of the gift room. He wore a black catering jacket, but his face did not belong to the catering staff Diane had hired. He was older than the waiters, leaner, with a beard trimmed close to the jaw and eyes that seemed used to watching exits. Caroline handed him a small envelope. He nodded once and stepped back out the service door. Eleanor leaned in carefully without touching the photo. "Who is he?" "We are working on that," Howard said. He was on the catering list as Roland Mercer, replacement server. The staffing agency confirmed nobody by that name was ever assigned. The signature on his shift slip was forged. "We are running the face." Marcus stared at the picture for a long moment. He used the back service entrance. Yes. Either Caroline let him in, or he had previous access. Given that he knew the layout, the cameras he kept his head turned away from, and the timing of staff rotations, I do not believe this was his first visit to your estate. Daniel exhaled slowly. "Marcus, this isn't just Caroline." "No," Howard said, "this is organized." Aaron stepped in then with a tablet. He had been waiting outside long enough that he had clearly been told to listen first and speak second. Lab called back. Marcus looked up and... "The substance on the pin is a synthetic toxin not commonly available. Not commercial. Not pharmaceutical." The chemist who looked at the preliminary panel said the design priority appears to be small dose effectiveness through a minor skin breach. Designed to look like a heart event if a doctor wasn't already present. The room went still. Eleanor stood and walked to the window, not because she wanted the view, but because her anger needed somewhere to go. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. Then he opened them. "Howard. The study at the estate." Caroline was there last week. Yes. She told Diane she was looking for a photograph from your 40th. There are no photographs in the study, Marcus said. All of those are in the library. Eleanor turned slowly. What did she really want? Howard had already opened his portfolio to a second page. I had your assistant may pull the access logs overnight. In the past 6 weeks, the digital signature pad on your study desk has been used outside of your active working hours 14 times. Most of those nights you were either at a board dinner, on a flight, or asleep in the East Wing. Marcus stared at him. What was signed? That is what I need you to look at. He turned the page. A list of internal documents. Some were routine. Many were not. Marcus's eyes scanned the list and slowly settled on 3 lines near the bottom. Amendment to the Hale Industries Voting Trust. Temporary chair authorization. Conditional asset transfer provision in the event of medical incapacitation. Caroline's name appeared as the contingency officer in all 3. She rewrote the chain, Marcus said quietly. Eleanor crossed the room. What does that mean? It means if I had been declared medically incapacitated, even for a short period, Caroline would have stepped into temporary control of the voting trust, the chair position, and the asset accounts. Long enough to move shares. Long enough to authorize a sale. To whom? Daniel asked. Marcus didn't have to think long. The same buyer she has been pushing me toward for 2 years. The one I have refused every single time. The one whose representative she keeps bringing to dinners she organizes. Howard nodded slowly. We pulled flight records this morning. 3 of those representatives flew into the city this week. None of them are still here. They left yesterday afternoon. Theo's voice was low. Before the party. Before the party, Howard confirmed. Marcus leaned back against the pillows. For a long moment he said nothing. The bandaged thumb on his hand throbbed with a quiet, insistent rhythm that felt like a clock counting down something he could not yet name. They were waiting for the news, he said finally. They were going to fly back in the moment my obituary ran. Eleanor's voice was hard, and Caroline would have signed the deal as acting chair while you were still warm. Yes. Daniel ran a hand down his face. 30 years. 30 years she stood next to you. She stood next to my money, Marcus said. She stood next to my access. The friendship was the path. It was never the destination. A nurse knocked and entered briefly, checked his IV and left without comment. Hospitals had a way of carrying on through earthquakes. Howard, Marcus said, where is she now? Her apartment. She arrived home around 4 this morning. She has not left, but she has made 3 phone calls. One to her attorney, one to a private banker in Geneva, one to a number we are still tracing. She is preparing to move. Yes. Marcus looked at his sister. Elle, I need to go home. You are not leaving this hospital. I am not leaving the bed. I am leaving the hospital. I want to be in my own study when she is brought in. I want her to see the room she copied my signature from. I want this to end where it started. Eleanor studied him. There was a long, slow breath. Then she nodded once. Aaron. Aaron sighed. I knew this was coming. 6 hours. Then I want him back here for observation. 6 hours, Marcus agreed. By late morning, Marcus was home. Not the home of the night before. That home had been a backdrop for a betrayal. This was something else. The staff stood quietly in the entry hall as he was wheeled through, and one by one they nodded to him, not with pity, but with a kind of fierce respect. They had heard. They had all heard. Maya's name had moved through the staff quarters before sunrise, and by the time Marcus came home, every man and woman who worked under that roof understood that a 9-year-old girl had done what none of them had managed to do. Diane stood near the corridor to the staff wing with Maya beside her. Marcus saw them and asked the nurse to stop the wheelchair. Maya, he said, I want you and your mother in the study with me when this is finished. If your mother is willing. Diane looked startled. Sir, she's a child. You don't have to. I want her to see that adults can do the right thing when a child tells the truth, Marcus said. I want her to know it isn't always the way it was last night. Diane's eyes filled, but she nodded. Yes, sir. By 2 in the afternoon, Howard's team had located the man from the gift room. Roland Mercer was not his name. His real name was Victor Salt, and he had a long, quiet history of contract work for people who paid in cash and bought in silence. He had been picked up at a small private airstrip outside the city, trying to board a chartered flight under a third name. Inside his bag were 2 passports, $14,000 in mixed currency, and a small leather case containing 3 more glass vials of the same toxin Aaron had described. 3 more? Marcus stared at the photograph of the case for a long moment. She had a list, he said. Howard nodded. We assume so. Salt has not said a word yet. But the list is in his head, and he is in a room with people whose job is to find lists in heads. Lawfully, patiently, Caroline. Now, Marcus's car pulled into the long drive of Caroline Whitfield's penthouse, building 40 minutes later. 2 unmarked vehicles followed at a polite distance. Howard rode beside him. Elena refused to stay behind. Aaron came too, because he had stopped pretending he had any control over what Marcus did, and because he wanted to be there in case the day had any more surprises. Caroline was already in the lobby when they arrived. She stood by the elevators in a soft cream coat, a small overnight bag at her feet, the same diamond earrings from the party still in her ears. She had not slept either. The makeup was perfect, but her eyes betrayed her. She saw Marcus through the glass doors, and her shoulders dropped half an inch. Not in defeat. In recalculation. He stepped through the doors with the help of his cane. The bandaged hand stayed in his coat pocket. Marcus, she said softly, you should not be on your feet. I am not staying on them long. I came to say one thing. Caroline's mouth lifted into the small, practiced smile she had worn at every charity gala for 30 years. Then say it. I trusted you, Marcus said. I am not here to ask you why. I do not care why anymore. People like you always have a why, and the why is always smaller than the people you stepped on to get there. I am here to tell you that the chess set is in evidence. The pin is in evidence. The cameras are in evidence. The signature pad is in evidence. The voting trust amendment is being voided this afternoon. Victor Salt was picked up at noon. He had 3 more vials in his bag. She did not blink. He admired that in a way he was not proud of. And the little girl, Caroline asked. She is at my home in my study, where she will sit beside me when this is done. Caroline's smile finally faltered. Marcus, please. I have known you for... You have known my schedule for 30 years, he said. You have known my access. You have known my weaknesses. You have not known me. If you had known me, you would have understood that the one thing I would never forgive is a child being humiliated in my own house for telling the truth. 2 officers stepped through the doors behind him. They were polite. They were quiet. Caroline did not resist. She had been preparing for many endings in her life, but a small girl behind a potted palm had not been in any of them. And Marcus saw the moment she understood that her plan had failed not because of a security flaw or a forensic mistake, but because she had taken her glass vial out of her purse in a room where a child happened to be looking at flowers. As she was led past him, she paused once. She is a remarkable child. Yes, Marcus said, she is. Then Caroline was gone, and Marcus stood in the lobby of a building he had visited 100 times and realized he would never enter it again. 3 weeks later, on a Saturday afternoon, the study at the Hale estate was full of soft autumn light. The signature pad was gone. The desk had been moved 6 inches to the left, which Marcus had decided was as much exorcism as a piece of furniture could provide. A new chess set sat on a low table by the window, a simple wooden one with no false bottom, no velvet lining, no antique provenance. Just pieces and a board. Maya sat on one side of the board, her stuffed rabbit on the chair beside her. Marcus sat on the other. You move first, he said. White always moves first. That is the only rule that is not negotiable in this room anymore. She slid a pawn forward. He slid one back. Diane sat near the window, watching them, a cup of tea cooling in her hands. She had not yet adjusted to her new title, which Marcus had simply called Head of Household, Full Authority, because Diane had told him very politely the morning after he came home that if she was going to manage his estate, she was not going to manage it the way the last person had. He had laughed for the first time in 3 weeks. In a small wooden box on the desk sat the paperwork for a trust in Maya's name. Education through graduate school. A modest home for Diane when she was ready. A monthly stipend that did not turn them into anyone but themselves. It was, Marcus had told his sister, the smallest amount of money he had ever spent that mattered the most. SS. Eleanor stepped into the doorway, watched her brother lose a knight to a 9-year-old, and shook her head with a smile. "You're letting her win." "I am not," Marcus said. "She is winning." Maya did not look up from the board. "I'm winning." Outside the window, the long lawn rolled down toward the lake, and somewhere far beyond it, in a courtroom across the city, a former best friend was learning what it cost to underestimate a child behind a plant. This story reminds us that the truth often arrives in the smallest voice in the room, and that ignoring it can cost more than we know. It teaches that wealth, status, and lifelong friendship are not the same as character, and that real strength is not in refusing to be wrong, but in being willing to listen when a child stands in front of an entire room and says, "Please, sir, stop." Maya's courage shows that integrity does not depend on age. Marcus's journey shows that the most powerful thing a grown man can do is admit a mistake and protect the person who tried to warn him. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and tell us where you are watching from. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that matter.